Hi, welcome back to Wild Speculations. I'm Daniel.
I'm Scott.
This week we talk about episode 30, The Journey Home.
Yep.
Uh,
Start out with a little bit of retcon.
yeah.
They
had to undo the long rest that they ended with at the live show.
Right.
And Matt rewound a long time when he was giving the last time on talk.
Yeah.
Which I think he was doing for the benefit of everyone, to let them know the last time that Travis and Laura were on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which Sam didn't pick up on. Because it was almost 3 minutes long.
Yeah, I think he was catching them up, and then he was also. I like that they retconned it a little bit, though, that they put it to the spot so that Laura, would not when and said case closed, Laura could react, and we got that.
And on a selfish note, I was glad that that's where they started it.
Okay.
Well, started it, because I forgot to mention that was sort of my favorite moment of the live show.
Right.
For the episode.
Yeah.
Or at least the one that sort of got me right here.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a good scene. So they rescue them, and Yasha's unconscious. Ashley couldn't be there. Although Matt did say that he spoke with Ashley, and so when he played her at the funeral, that was what Ashley wanted to do. He just portrayed it for her.
Yeah.
Because she couldn't be there, which was nice. We saw, I don't know, there's a couple of things that went on there that, and kind of not necessarily were triggered in my mind there, but started there and worked their way through to me wondering things.
What do you mean?
Jester's just attitude, she's still the happy, upbeat, but it's almost a denial level.
Okay.
It'll be interesting to see how Laura plays it out. I think that...
Oh, I don't think it was denial at all.
You don't think it was denial?
No.
What do you think it was?
I think it was her sense of humor and her jokiness. That's sort of core to her personality. That's why she took the name Jester.
Right.
For her tiefling sort of aspect that she's wanting to emulate.
Right.
When people have a dark sense of humor, that's where they go. But I think she's having a crisis of faith.
Okay.
And I wanted to talk a little bit about her and Ford's reaction to all that this episode for sure. But one of the things that I wanted to touch on before we got into that is during Matt's wrap-up.
Okay.
He said that Lorenzo was following them the whole time.
Invisible and in the air.
Which, if you only saw the live Gen Con show, you went, what?
Right.
Because that wasn't revealed at all at the table on stage. That was revealed in their panel the next morning.
Yeah.
Which was on YouTube. But I thought that was interesting that he added that in for the show. As part of his official recap. But I loved when Jester's like, well, how did you find us? And Knott's like, well, we followed the clues and we thought logically and did this and that and the other thing. And a girl we found walking down the street told us. Which I thought was a great way to sum up Keg.
Yeah. But I mean, part of investigating is questioning
That's true.
suspects, and given her arrival to the Mighty Nine, that would make her a suspect. So, still detective work.
And I love also Knott's like, yeah, he's a healer. We met him this morning.
Yeah. And they're like, yeah, this is Caduceus. Yeah, we met him this morning.
Which, like, we joked about that interplay between Jester and Caduceus.
Yes.
And what we were expecting to come out of it. And I think we got pretty much what we were
I think
expecting.
So. I think
at least the groundwork. The first parts.
And one of the things I was going to mention about Jester, I like that when Sam did his announcement and was updating Laura and Travis about the new things at the studio since they've been gone. He's like, Talzin's new character's a clerk, so you don't have to heal people. She's all, yes! And then the first thing that happens is they turn to Caduceus, do you have any more healing? You're our healer. She's just like, I have healing. I can do it.
Yeah, which I also... So I think for her, that was Jester's way of not wanting to feel like they replaced her.
Yeah, because they had gone to her for healing.
Yeah.
And she was never really kind of wanted to do it.
Yeah.
And
I love Marisha's joke. It's like getting a second cat. They keep each other in line. They compete.
It's true. I thought that was I like that. Just seeing just to be like, wait, you guys don't come to me anymore? I know I didn't want to do it, but I want you to need me.
Yeah. So it's going to be interesting to see how she interacts with the magic duel between her and Caleb, and now Caduceus thrown into the mix as well. Yeah. Who's a more direct competitor with Jester than Caleb.
With the competition thing, I don't think Caduceus is really into that.
Oh, no. It's totally going to be one-sided.
So, yeah, it's just going to be Jester thinking she's in competition with Caduceus. Oh, yeah, well, I can heal.
Yeah, totally.
Can you summon a lollipop? No, but I got a cloud of fairies.
Yeah. And we also, so another thing that we sort of got right was he's going to give them another reason to go to the Menagerie Coast. We predicted that it would happen when they got back to Zadash, but it happened there at the hideout.
Yeah.
And I think Matt had a lot of thinking and prep to do between between the Gen Con show and Thursday's show. And he produced a lot of it in physical form to give the players.
Yep.
Which blew Travis's mind, which I think was great.
There's the receipt and the letter with the gold coin.
Yeah.
The other two letters were creations of Ashley.
Yeah.
Burge.
Before we delve too deep into that.
Okay.
Because I think that letter is going to take up a lot of discussion time, potentially.
Yeah.
Or at least speculation time. Because I didn't get a whole rewatch of the episode in. I just watched the first part of it, which to me was the bulk of the episode. Because the rest of the episode after break was essentially housekeeping.
For the most part.
They did the funeral part 2.
Yes.
For Ford and Jester.
Yes.
And Yasha.
Mm-hmm.
And we had Yasha leaving. But by and large, the rest of the episode was them getting back to Zadash and that meeting with the gentleman.
Yeah.
And we had forgotten that they had to take her back to that.
Yeah, which almost makes you think ultimately the whole mission was a booty call. Because you can't just send a text,
Well, that's funny. I don't think that's true. One of the questions we got answered in the wrap-up, which we had asked previous even to Gen Con,
right,
was were they conscious during that fight when Molly died?
Yeah. And I think they probably were in that last cart, like you'd been saying.
Yeah.
So.
And I don't know if they talked about it or not beforehand, or if it's just such an obvious thing that's going to happen that Taliesin planned to be the one to jump on it. But when Jester asks, "Where's Molly?" and he immediately is like, "Who?"
Oh, yeah.
Which I think set
it
turned the awkward dial up.
I don't think that was planned. I think that was just Taliesin reacting.
Okay.
Caduceus, they'd never really talked about Molly, you know?
Yeah, but the reason why I think at least Taliesin had it in the back of his head that he expected one of them to ask that question.
Yeah.
And he wanted to be the one on it first.
I could believe that, but I could also just see him reacting.
Yeah. And also because a lot of Taliesin's player actions have revolved around him reinforcing the idea Molly is not coming back.
Right.
Because that's been a lot, even at the table, where Sam's like, well, he came back once already.
Yeah.
Where Taliesin has been very like, no, he's not coming back.
Yes. But, and Matt said this on the last talks he was on, that doesn't mean his story is over.
Yeah.
So,
well, I think, so because Taliesin was playing the Blood Hunter, which is a class that Matt created, and it is connected to the Blood Clerics in the Tal'Dorei campaign guide.
Right.
And we know that the Tabaxi is a Blood Cleric.
Correct.
I think that is part of this overarching thing that's going to happen. That's happening.
And I'm wondering what we missed out on in Shady Creek because Molly was not there, and they did not pursue that. Because if you remember back, the Tabaxi said some of his crew were hiding out in Shady Creek.
No, I had forgotten that.
Yeah.
I wonder if that would have been the taskers that they would have hired.
Could have been. And with the graveyard not that far outside of Shady Creek, well, I mean, he got the coat from the thing, but from the carnival, I think.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It just seems.
That's a good point.
The other thing in Shady Creek, we saw the drow, the Cricks, just briefly.
Yeah, as sort of a throwaway thing.
And I almost think Matt had something more, and whether that was the Molly story or this, because he kept saying, you got 3 or 4 hours with nothing to do. Do you want to do anything in town? And they just kind of skipped over it.
Yeah. He probably had something planned, but I think he had the Imperial guys there recruiting mercenaries, and I think that was just to show that the Jorhassians are also coming here to recruit people.
Okay, I don't think so.
You know,
here's what I think. Okay, and this will be proven here in the next episode or two, or not proven, but given a more substantial groundwork.
Okay.
In the next episode or two, or it'll be proven that it was just a one-off thing and they were there. I think there's more. I think the Jorhassians are sent out in pairs, and I think that pair is looking for the dodecahedron.
Yeah.
And they were probably back there in Zadash. They heard about the thing.
possibly.
They're probably out just scouring areas for it.
Yeah.
So if we see...
Well, we have actually... Okay, so there's also pseudo-evidence for that in the fact that they found that letter about questing for a different artifact.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So in the same episode that Matt introduces that, he introduces these guys. So, yeah, I could buy that.
Yeah. So that's my...
I thought they were there recruiting mercenaries of their own.
I think they're tracking down, and I don't think they know they're tracking down the Mighty Nine, but I think they're tracking down the Mighty Nine.
Yeah. Well, yeah, the chickens are going to have to come home to roost on that one.
So yeah, those are two things that I was like, well, okay.
So and I also like Caduceus saying, "Nothing this good ever happens."
Yeah.
And I love the checking for patchouli.
Yeah. I love the reaction when he's like, "Yeah, he makes tea out of dead people." Wait, what? It's actually quite good.
And we got more of the predestination paradox Jester Ford love story. Where Jester's like, there was so much eye contact and not Sam's playing along. So
yeah, well, and when Ford was talking and she's all of a sudden my name was in her song and
now we talked about whether or not we would ever see an apology from Ford. And we talked about how Travis said no.
Right.
I contend we did.
Okay.
Or as close as we're going to get to one.
As close as we're going to get to one, I contend that he didn't.
But when he singled out Caleb, he said, "Caleb, thank you."
Yeah.
I think that was the "I'm sorry." And he also specifically thanked Not Next.
Yeah.
Who was also in that room.
Yeah.
And I think that gets to... So, Jester, I think, is having a crisis of faith.
I can see that.
And Ford is experiencing survivor's guilt. And I think it's not the first time.
Yeah.
And I think Matt has teed this up really well for that to come back to Ford full force when they get back to the Menagerie Coast.
Yeah.
Because I think the captain is his captain.
Yeah. And so I like that Travis was the first one to recognize the gem in that letter.
Yeah, and it was...
And I recognized it. I was like, that's the... And then when Travis... And then I looked at Travis's face, being that,
yeah.
And I was like, he knows. And none of the rest of them got it until he said, "Hey, don't we all recognize that?"
Yeah, so I've talked about doing clips for us. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if I really realistically have the time. But for this episode, I decided to take my notes in a way that if I was going to do clips, I would need to take notes. So I've got some timestamps.
Okay.
And like when something started, when something ended. And from the time he hands them the letter and they open it and they see it, to Matt basically telling them, was almost 2 minutes.
Okay.
And yeah, Travis did get it practically right away.
Yeah.
And now we know... Well, before we get into that, one more thing I want to mention.
Okay.
And it has to do with Caleb, Ford, Knott, and everybody.
Okay.
And that's when Knott's like, yeah, Caleb's the leader.
Yeah. He says, well, why are you asking me? You're the leader.
Yeah. Ford didn't say anything.
Yeah.
And Jester basically accepted it too.
Yeah.
Which I think is going to have interesting and potentially horrible repercussions.
Well, I think Ford is going to try and keep that leadership that he had before. But I think he's going to do a more backseat leader. And he's kind of been that from the beginning.
Yeah, he's kind of arguably done that from the beginning. But I don't think he's going to even do that.
And, but I really like the expressions on his face when him and Bo and Caleb meet with Mardoon. Because Caleb starts in and talking about, hey, and at first, the first time I watched it, I was like, oh, he's like shocked that they killed all these people. And then I was like, no, he's shocked that Caleb's that comfortable taking the lead role. Hey, look, I told you everyone's been vetted and everyone's good. You don't need to, he was surprised at the leadership.
Yeah.
And then Bo chimes in asking for the glaive back. No, that's ours because of our... And Travis almost stepped in to try and do the smooth talk. And he's like, wait a minute, she's got this. And it was like Ford's realization of how much they had grown in just those few days.
Yeah.
And how they stepped up.
Which I think is going to further negatively affect his mental state.
Well, I think it's going to make him question his purpose even more.
Yeah.
Which he's already doing.
Yeah. And I wanted to talk about that scene from the GM's perspective too.
Yeah. It was also just a great encapsulation, not just for Ford's realization, but for the audience of how much those two characters have grown.
Yeah. And so I realized it, and I've been trying to, when we were out to dinner, I was trying to formulate to get it succinct. But each of the players has their own narratives in their head to one extent or another. And they have how they intersect with the other players sort of in their mind. But that scene, more than probably anything we've seen up until now, encapsulates how well Matt holds the narrative in his head.
Yeah.
And who's met whom and everything else. And really that should have been a foreshadowing for when they got to the Zadash to leave Caduceus out from going to meet the gentleman.
Yeah.
But none of them really picked up on it.
Yeah.
But I thought it was interesting.
They should have either left him out or he could have disguised self as Molly.
Oof.
Which would have been interesting to see him interact with the Tabaxi.
Ooh, man. That would have been... Well, that would have been a hell of a thing to watch.
That's what I wanted them to do.
Now, the other side of that is Caduceus had never seen Molly.
Never seen Molly, but Jester's got pictures, drawings, and they could describe him.
True. That's
and
true.
It wouldn't be a perfect disguised self.
Yeah.
But it might have been enough to be interesting.
Oof. Yeah. That would have been a rough one. I hadn't considered that. Damn, that would have been... Because, like, if he could have avoided the bloodletting had he done that.
Yeah.
But you want to talk about driving a wedge into the group you just joined.
Yeah.
I mean, that probably would have...
Yeah.
Yeah. Caduceus wants to head east, and we talked about what does he want.
Yeah.
I think so. We talked about how the forest had been corrupted
right
at the last.
At Shady Creek.
Yeah, but the event, I'm blanking on the name of it.
Oh, the
not Calamity.
Yeah, Calamity.
Okay, Calamity. Yeah.
Yeah, my brain was thinking Cataclysm, but that's the Dragon Mounts.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was that God War, not this God War.
Yeah.
Can't gods just get along?
But we know from the solo scene with Yasha that she saw a vision of the East corrupted, the land corrupted.
Yeah.
And that's where Caduceus needs to go.
Mm-hmm.
So I think Caduceus and his family have determined that the source of the corruption in Shady Creek is in the East.
Yeah.
Which I think is going to be the Drow connection.
Okay.
And I don't... We've seen insects play into the crick, the Jorhassians.
Right.
But not spiders.
Yes.
So I don't know if Matt is going to be using Lolth.
Right.
Or just a goddess like her.
Right. Well, he does have his generic version
in Tal'Dorei.
In Tal'Dorei. There is the this is Lolth, but I can't say Lolth or Spider Queen because of the copyright thing version of my deity.
Yeah.
He does have that. I forget the Webbed Tyrant or something.
I think so. Yeah,
something like that. But yeah, she is one of the betrayer gods.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that's where that's going, and that's going to be tier 3 stuff.
Okay.
If not in the tier 4. And we are in tier 2.
Yes.
I was thinking about this today because last episode we were talking about the arc of the campaign, where they're at, and we started talking about what they were going to do at their level.
Right.
Or a couple of them, without actually calling, hey, they're going to level up. And they did level up, and I was like, if we would have just explicitly said it, that would have been another thing.
One. Yeah. Yep. Well, I think we said they're either going to level up or level up during the next episode. Because the last level up they did was
I think specifically
mid-episode.
We said Zadash.
Okay.
When they got back to Zadash is when we said they were going to level up.
Okay.
But he let them do it in Shady Creek.
And 4 of them got max HP. One of them got an 11 on her D12.
Yeah. So
and none of those 4 were Caleb, by the way. Poor Caleb.
Yeah. Sometimes the dice know what the narrative needs, and sometimes the narrative moves to the dice. It's sort of the chicken and the egg argument sometimes.
Yeah.
But he's been playing Caleb as squishy and afraid, and the dice continue to reinforce that he is squishy and needs to be afraid.
Yeah.
But we're halfway through, and we said we wanted to talk that the bulk of this was going to be speculating about that letter.
Yes.
And there's a lot to talk about.
Yes, there is.
Travis noticed the manacle theme.
Yes.
He set it at the table.
Thank you. It's about time one of them acknowledged the theme that we've been saying since how long now?
Yeah.
Pretty much since the manacles appeared.
Yeah. We got what that thing was called.
Yeah.
The Cloven Crystal. Avantika and Marius Lepau as the people mentioned in that letter.
Yes.
And that Lapau is working for the captain, who is the one who has contracted this contract.
Yes.
Now, we had speculated that the reason for going to the Menagerie Coast was going to happen because of the gentleman. While he didn't give them the mission, I still don't think that's wrong. And here's why. And Sam kind of hinted at it at the table.
Okay.
When he's like, where did we find that? And he was starting to put it together.
Mm-hmm.
The gentleman was involved in that job.
Yes.
The letter detailing that job was intercepted by Lorenzo, who ruined Mardoon's trade with the gentleman.
Which, what did I say? The gentleman's working with them as well.
Yeah. So, the gentleman's position in this is not clear yet, but he definitely is a mover and shaker. And we talked about, is he a force for chaos or order? And I don't think we have that answer yet either. But I lean towards order.
Yeah. He strikes me as lawful evil. I see the flaw inherent in the system, and I'm going to carve out a comfortable space for myself to,
Yeah. Now, they also mentioned Clary, or Kari, and the cult of Tiamat.
Yeah.
That's in...
Kaliana,
yeah. That's in the Menagerie Coast.
Yes.
I think we're going to see them appear again.
Okay.
I don't know if we'll see Callie or not.
Right, because he's got to come over from the UK.
Yeah, or they
or
use Skype
in. Yeah.
But that's a very late night for him.
Yes, and he's already started his season 2 of his show. And
yeah. I think... So we have this artifact that Ford is in possession of.
Yeah.
Which also gets to
what we were talking.
Is he going to have? Is that crystal going to be in the new sword, or are they going to retcon that absorption into no? He just attuned to it. He didn't want to make it his pack weapon. He just wanted to be attuned to 2 weapons.
Right. And see, that's and we talked about this a little bit. That's the thing. I was confused by that because he absorbed it, he took it in. I was like, so what happens to the Waste Hunter blade?
Yeah.
Because we had talked about that before. Do they keep stacking? Does one replace the other? What happens to the one that gets replaced?
Yeah.
And the one that got replaced wasn't anywhere that they found.
Yeah.
And then when he described it at the funeral, when he did the sword salute for Molly, the way he described it, it was a combination of the falchion, the Waste Hunter, and the Summer's Dance.
Yeah.
It had aspects of all 3 blades.
Yeah.
So that leads me to believe that they've been combined. Which... What does... is this just going to be... Is this how vestiges... is this how vestiges are made? Is this going to be the vestige of the Kraken?
Interesting idea. The other thing is that perhaps... So the neatest solution for this... and it's sort of a... DMs, if you have a problem with players having items that you want to get rid of or whatever, this may be a way to do it. But to lower the number of magic items, magic weapons in the world.
Yeah.
But what I think is going on is these weapons that the Kraken's servants bond with as hexblades go to its lair.
That could be.
And in theory, they're there to be found. If someone kills the Kraken or sneaks in or what have you.
Okay.
I think you have a problem if he can access these weapons, or if they're all the powers are available all at once. But I was thinking in the moment, I was like, can Ford at a long or short rest change which
benefit
he wants?
That was the other thing I was thinking. Is this like, okay, you've got this catalog, each rest you can choose which one you're going to use for that outing. And I still think that the crystal was that ruby of the war mage.
Yeah.
That makes it so he doesn't need the material, so he doesn't need the somatic or the material while he's wielding that packed weapon.
Which for half a second I thought that's what the ruby was that they found in the bag of
almost, yeah. Until he said the Cora, whatever the name of it is.
Yeah.
And then I was like,
it wasn't specifically a ruby.
Yeah, he's like, it's not really a ruby, it's more of, and I was like, wait, I know that. And I looked in my DMG and I was like, yep. So, and it's the one that can summon the fire elemental, which is perfect for Caleb because he's, the fire bug.
Oh, I love that interaction when Bo's like, well, I kind of feel like fire is your thing. And he was just absolutely disgusted.
Yeah.
And he's like, it's not my thing. And yeah, I love that. That was... So one of the things that we haven't talked about in a while is Caleb's spell choice.
Yes.
Caleb has had access to 3rd level spell slots for a while.
Mm-hmm.
He did not take Fireball.
Well, we haven't seen him use it anyway.
I don't think he took it. I think he took his... I think the only fire spells he was going to take were those available at 1st level.
Okay.
Firebolt, Scorching Ray, and Burning Hands, I think. Or Burning Hands might be...
No, Burning Hands is first.
Yeah.
Yeah, because, let's see, we know he's got the Maximilian's Earthen Grasp, the Cat's Paw. We know he's got Liamon's Tiny Hut.
Which he was talking about way long ago. I was like, that kind of came out of nowhere. And then I was like, no, it what? No, it didn't. Because when they were leaving where they met the circus, that long ago, he mentioned...
Trostenwald?
Yeah, Trostenwald. He mentioned working on Liamon's Tiny Hut.
Yes.
With the express goal of eventually getting to the mansion.
Well, and he said he already knows what spells he's going to pick at different levels.
Yeah. So, and he's also said they're all role-playing choices.
And when he did it, he's like, I can't make furniture yet.
Yeah.
Which was...
Mordenkainen's.
Yeah. The mansion.
Yeah. So...
which that is a great spell. And it's a ritual spell.
Well, so is Liamon's.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Liamon's.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, he can do that as a ritual, so he doesn't need to prep it. If you have anyone who has ritual caster players, 3rd level. So if they're not a wizard, all they have to be is 6th level to find that and put it in their book. If they've got the ritual caster feat for wizards or the Pact of the Tome warlock.
Yeah.
And they can get that spell. It is only available to wizards, so you either have to take the feat for wizard spells or be Pact of the Tome or be a wizard.
Yeah.
But hey, it's great. I mean, yeah, it's a big dome and people will see it, but they can't get through it, and you can see them, so you'll know where they are.
Yeah.
And they won't see, at night. They won't see your fire.
Yeah. And it can only be one color, and he made it sort of a stone color.
Yeah.
And on last night, you guys met a wizard out in the wilderness in a snowstorm who made his white.
Yes. And I instantly knew what it was, but I had my character. I was like, wait, I just saw this.
Yeah.
And one of the other players was like, nope, it's an igloo. I'm like, nope, pretty sure it's not. Well, how do we tell? It's got an opening, you're right. If it doesn't, I am.
Yeah. So we have the manacles and the gentleman being involved with that crystal. So maybe the Crick are more significant.
Yeah.
There. Because a lot of the icons they found in that room were betrayer gods.
Yeah.
Now, it was framed that the Merrow were doing that as some sort of their own kind of ritual.
Yeah.
But what if it wasn't? And we've been going on the assumption that they collected all of those things from people going through the gentleman's hideout.
Yeah, I assumed that the gentleman had been collecting them, trafficking in.
Yeah.
And they just took it because it was up there when they raided the gentleman's thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, I don't know. Merrow may serve one of the betrayers. They may serve the Kraken.
Yeah, well, it was given a position of prominence.
So,
so Matt sort of was trolling them when they were in the swamp.
Yeah.
With hearing the distant howls and everything, and around every tree, Travis was expecting a werewolf, which meant I was expecting a werewolf. And so I kept waiting for the werewolf. It never came. And we've talked about Jester and Garmelie. Yes. And the Feywild. And we haven't really speculated on where the Traveler sits in the pantheon. Is he a good guy? Is he a bad guy? We also haven't heard, talk of, or seen a miracle of his. The sort of the thing that he needs to become a deity.
Right.
Is it possible that the werewolves are working with the Traveler, hunting down servants of the betrayer gods in that swamp or elsewhere? Because the blood hunters have the Order of the Lycan.
Yeah, it's true.
So there could be that thread to go into it as well. And that is... So Jester's involvement in this whole thing is to get to eventually rebinding the Chained Oblivion.
Mm-hmm.
And because the Traveler had a servant there, he claims that as his miracle.
Well, and that's going to be part of it, but like we kind of talked about, the binding and the different gods and how like the Traveler isn't one of them that had a trammel.
Right.
Because the reason that we believe the Chained Oblivion is weakened is because they use the same
deities
gods
to bind back
for trammel. Yeah. But the Traveler wasn't there. We had talked about Molly's god not being there, which is they still may use her, but that's kind of out the window with Molly being gone.
Well, that goes back to Matt saying his story isn't done.
Right.
And I think the Moon Goddess might be the redemption goddess for the Drow.
Okay, I can see that. But Caduceus's god, the Wilde, wasn't one of them.
Yeah.
The Stormlord wasn't one of them.
Yeah.
So that's more weight to this being his miracle, because if his follower was there and used a trammel from him there, because part of the reason that Raven Queen went up was because, that's the reason they couldn't shoot her down after she ascended, was because she was there and helped them with the trammels.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this is how Artagon, Garmelie, rises to deification.
Yep. Yeah. So, and I think so. I don't know if it's going to be heavily connected with that crystal, because I think the crystal has more to do with Ford and his relationship to his patron.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to be sort of the personal angle as they investigate that.
Yeah, I think that's isolated to his backstory rather than the overall campaign. Okay. I think it'll affect the overall campaign, but I don't think it's tied to it the way that the Traveler and, you know, all of that stuff is.
Okay.
So, like, the Briarwoods were part of the overall campaign because Delilah was a servant of Vecna.
Yes.
Whereas, you know, the Aramente
kind of tangential.
Yeah.
Yeah. And ultimately was a way to introduce the Conclave.
Yeah.
Because it was
a way to escalate the Conclave because it was introduced pre-stream when they killed that blue dragon.
That's right. Yeah.
Because he was that one that they killed was general, part of the Conclave.
Yeah. Yeah. Escalating is a better word because it was that when she was doing fire, that they let Thorak out.
Yeah.
So through this crystal, do we hear about the Kraken and my mind's blanking on the name of it, the Ashari village.
Oh yeah, the Water Ashari.
Yeah. And through that, do we hear about Keyleth?
Possible.
Now, Matt has said they're not going to have any direct contact, but that these parallel things will come in.
Right.
Is this part of that?
It could be.
Because we've seen the firearms from Percy in Hopperduke.
Yep.
And the first one was Terry's book.
Right. And we saw the firearms all the way when we first met the gentleman.
Yeah.
And not stole one.
Okay, this has nothing to do with this campaign. But what if Pike's family are the reason the firearms got out of Whitestone?
Yeah, it could be.
They were gnomes.
Yeah.
The one city that has it, that's been manufacturing, is Gnomish City.
That very well. Or Scanlan.
I think Scanlan would have been happy with his.
Yeah.
Like, all he ever wanted was his gun.
Yeah.
And he was so greedy of it. He said he only fired it once in the year that he had it. So I don't think for him it was a useful item. It was just he wanted it.
Right. It wasn't useful. He had it after a while. What if he lost it in game?
But they were training the riflemen of Whitestone when Pike's family came.
That's true. That is true. And of course, yeah. So we've got things like that. We've got the guns. But we've also got the Kraken.
Yeah.
Which is Ford's patron, which is what killed Vax.
Yeah.
And we've heard of Pike's ship.
Yes.
So there's a lot of things, and Matt said there's things that they did do affect what's happening now.
Yeah. So I think we're going to see that aspect. That's something. I don't think they'll go there, but I think that they will find out that that's who his patron is, and that the doorway is there,
Yeah. Well, even if they go there, they wouldn't run into Keyleth because she's in the Arashari village.
Sure. Well, she can teleport, dude.
That's true. But what reason would she have? Unless they're like, hey, group of weird people came asking about the Kraken. They, message her.
What if there is a water Ashari they meet that's on their own Aramente?
Yeah.
That would be an interesting twist.
Yeah.
And we find out that Keyleth is showing signs of not wanting to do this anymore.
Well, I mean, she's the leader of the Arashari. Each one has their own leader that goes on an Aramente to prove they're willing to lead.
Well, she was sort of recognized as sort of the overall leader of the Ashari, though, as being the one who completed it.
Right. Well, it's like she has a place of honor in the other 3 Ashari cities, but she's not their ruler.
That's true. Yeah. All right. Trying to think if there's anything else I wanted to talk about with the crystal and the overall sort of direction of the campaign. We have... Yeah, so I don't... You joked that it was a booty call for Mardoon. And I don't think that's it.
I don't either.
But last few minutes, do they go to try to meet the captain to give him the stone that is inside Ford? Do they go to make the confrontation?
I think they try to look into who the captain is. I don't think they have any intent of giving the stone.
Okay.
This is tied to his patron. I think it's where we start touching on Ford's story, learn more about his life.
Well, and Jester's, because Jester is not supposed to go back.
Right.
To Zidane, or
the Menagerie Coast.
All I can think of are
Nicodranus.
Thank you. Yeah, because she's not supposed to go back there.
Right.
So it will be interesting to see how that will play out.
Mm-hmm.
And what nervousness she has about that.
Yeah.
They all started off as sort of very mercenary in their relationships overall.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, everyone's made the comparison between Molly and Coulson. But this whole thing has made them, in whether true or not, in practical terms, they owe each other their lives.
Yes. Yeah, the Iron Shepherds were their crucible.
Yeah. And we've talked earlier this episode. We were talking about how Ford is dealing with survival guilt. Jester is having a crisis of faith.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think this deepens their indebtedness? That's probably the wrong word, but to the rest of the Mighty Nine? If basically they go and are solving their personal problems for them? Because this will be the first instance of that.
Yeah. I think it's gonna... Well, okay, so I think that... And Ford pretty much touched on it. He said, I really thought, you could have left us. I really thought you had for a few days.
Yeah.
So I think Ford... and this goes back to you and your take on his apology.
Yeah.
A better word. I'm still not convinced that it was. I'll give you the. I'll give that you have reasoning for it, but I don't think it was. I think it was just more of. See, what I see it as is when he said thank you, he was just like, okay, you did this for me. Not sorry about what I did, but I recognize that you're not that person I thought you were. Going forward, you've grown into that person. Yeah. It's more of acknowledgement of, okay, you're where I wanted you to be.
Yeah, I see that.
That's how I took it. So that was kind of like, okay, these are people I want with me. These are people who are gonna, protect me, because he was going, how, I should have known. There was 3 of us watching. How did we miss them? Yeah. Super upset, and I love that Caleb was like, you can't blame yourself for being taken advantage of. They really didn't take advantage of Ford. They just got the drop on him.
Yeah. Caleb's
the one that was taken advantage of and is struggling with accepting his blame or So I think that was an intentional slip of the tongue on Liam's part.
Yeah, and I don't think Bo's off the cuff, but somebody's to blame thing.
Yeah.
It sat well with him at all.
Yeah.
Because I noticed Travis, when she said that, he just like that. And my head did something similar. I was like, ooh. So yeah, I think we're going to have... Do we have another shopping episode before they go to Zadash? Or...
You mean before they leave Zadash?
Or before they leave Zadash, yeah, to go to Manage Post.
We at least have until the break of shopping, because they've got to introduce Caduceus to Pumat. Plus, they're laden with all this platinum, and Bo needs to go and pick up those bracers for her AC and see what else he's got stocked up.
That's right, yeah.
Now, what would be really funny is if Caduceus acts like he knows Pumat. He said he doesn't know him, but that would just throw not for... I told you they all knew each other.
Yeah, and we're definitely going to get that joke return if they take Caduceus to meet Pumat.
I don't think that's an if. I think that's 100% guaranteed. I think Pumat is the Gilmore of this campaign.
Oh, yeah.
He's the one that every time they're there, they are going to make a point to go to his shop.
Yeah. Well, and he's become the merchandise arm of Critical Role.
And I think not only are they definitely going to go there, but Caduceus will meet him because Knot is going to say, you have to come. There's another one of you.
Yeah.
Now, the other thing I want to see...
What if Pumat met his sister?
Perhaps, yeah. Yeah, that could be a thing. But what I want to see, and I mentioned this before, I think when we talked about the first episode with Neela, because I think that was the episode where she said, oh, we have no use of money.
Yeah.
Is not to make that bargaining chip. Well, what about this? I know you don't need money anyway. I have it on good authority.
The Furbolgs don't need money. Yeah.
And Sam's the one that's going to remember and be able to use that. He does that long game, bring things out of the blue.
Yeah, for sure.
So those are the two things I want to see in the Pumat trip. Caduceus act like he knows him. I don't think that will happen, but I'd love to see it happen. And not use that line, which I think will happen.
Yes, most definitely that will happen. Ford probably gets that shield finally.
I thought he already bought the shield.
Yes, he did.
The only one that didn't buy something was what they wanted was the bracers for Bo.
Yeah, and she had to get those commissioned or something, right?
No, she didn't have enough money. She said, "Hold them. I'll come back when I have more money." They've got more money now.
Yeah.
And he said they'll be here. So she's going to go back for the bracers to upper AC.
Yeah.
The monk version of the shield, basically.
Because you can't be wearing armor to benefit from the bracers of defense.
Right.
Anyway, we're a little over. We will talk to you guys next week.
See you guys.
And let us know what you thought. Bye. Bye.